I wanted to make a birthday cake for my friend for tomorrow. So it's gonna be a chiffon cake and like a mousse filling covered in almonds. So this is something my friend really likes to have because he really likes almond flavor. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of make a reference guide for myself in the future. So if I wanted to make a cake again, at least I know how I did it.
So important thing to note is to not grease your cake pans. We're going to cut out parchment rounds so that we can easily take these cakes out. Making sure to not grease the cake pans allows the cake to rise properly. In a large mixing bowl, you want to put together 200 grams of all-purpose flour, 125 grams of sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt. Now you want to whisk this all together to remove all the lumps. You don't have to sift this because of all the sugar and salt that removes the lumps itself just by whisking it together like that. Next you want to add 75 grams of veggie oil. I added a bit too much, but that's okay, mistakes happen. Next you want to add 100 grams of cold water, and you can see I'm adding it slowly so I don't add too much like last time. So we have a total of 6 eggs in this recipe, and I'm cracking each one into a bowl so that I don't accidentally add egg yolk into the egg white mixture. And we want to put the egg yolks into the flour mixture and the egg whites into a separate bowl so that we would whip it into a meringue. Very important to make sure that the egg whites don't go into the egg whites. Make sure that the egg yolks don't go into the egg whites. So you need 125 grams of the meringue of sugar and 1/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. And I'm whisking together the flour mixture, whisking a lot to make sure there are no lumps. You don't have to worry about developing gluten. Actually adding more gluten helps with the cake structure and stability, so you don't have to worry about that. You should get a thickness like this, very thick, and a nice glossy texture, no lumps. Now, just the egg whites and the cream of tartar by itself, you want to whisk it just until it gets into like a shaving foam texture, very light and foamy. This is just egg whites and the cream of tartar. Now we want to slowly add, like a spoonful at a time, the granulated sugar. And we want to do this slowly so that the sugar can slowly dissolve into the egg whites. Adding too much would make the meringue not as stable. And adding all the sugar helps make the egg white easy to mix in and makes it stable. So you would know when it's done once it's firm at the base but still has a floppy top, like this texture. Now we want to fold this meringue into the flour mixture, and you want to do a little bit first just to loosen everything up, and then you can slowly add more and fold it in. You can see this kind of folding action I'm doing. You want to whip it in because you'll lose all that air that you just beat into the meringue. So I took some time just to slowly fold everything in and making sure that everything is folded in and just until it's combined. And you want to make sure there are no more egg white streaks left over, or else the cake itself will taste eggy. You should get a texture like this, very firm and thick. And now divide this into the 2 pans that were prepared, and you want to put this into an oven preheated at 325 degrees and cook it for 45 minutes. And here I'm tapping up the pans to remove all the excess air and getting a chopstick to get rid of the big bubbles. Now you want to cook this until they're golden brown on top and they pass the poke test. So you can see they're springing right back up once you poke it. It took me 45 minutes and the cakes won't collapse. Very important that it passes the poke test. Here I'm making the custard mixture. So I have 3.4 ounces of vanilla instant pudding, and I'm going to add 1 cup of milk, which is 240 grams, and 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. I would actually add a bit more almond extract because it was a bit light in flavor, so maybe 1 teaspoon might be good if you really like almond. And now I'm going to beat this up really well, get rid of all the lumps and any streaks of that modified cornstarch in the pudding mix. So you can see right here, very firm, very smooth. This will go nicely once you add the whipped cream. So this is the next day. I let the pudding firm up overnight, and I'm adding a whole pint of cream and whisking that together until you get firm peaks like this. Now I'm going to fold in, similar to what we did with the egg whites, fold in that pudding mixture into the whipped cream. And again, you don't want to knock out all the air. Next time I think I would double the amount of whipped cream mixture I had, just because the whipped cream makes the cake lighter and more moist. And you can see how fluffy and thick that cream mixture is. So you can see the cakes have now collapsed. You want to demold them, so get your, like a butter knife for example, and scrape it on the edge, and then you can turn it over and easily remove the parchment round that we put in the beginning. So you can see how tall and fluffy the cake is. Very nice texture. I'm cutting these in half so I can have more cream filling. This would also be good with like a jam filling as well, but this is a simpler cake, just a custard filling. You can see it's very, very fluffy and fine crumb. So I'm going to do the same for the other cake. I'm going to demold it, then just cut it in half. Here I was trying to be exact and measure how much each portion of cream would be. Basically just want half a cup of cream mixture in between each layer. But if you want to double it, which I suggest you do, maybe 3/4 of a cup or even 1 cup. The only thing to keep in mind is that this cake is actually pretty tall. It could barely fit into the cake thing that I put in, so the cake carrier I put in, so just keep that in mind about how much extra cream and filling that you put in. This was reaching right to the top. So right now I'm just putting the whipped cream and decorating the sides very messily. This doesn't really need to be perfect because I'm going to cover everything in almonds, so it's going to hide all the imperfections. If you use a better tool than a butter knife, this probably would be easier. Maybe like a bench scraper and a lazy Susan to easily make the sides even. That would help, but I don't really have that tool. But even with a butter knife you can still get a messy cake that looks like this. But this is going to be okay because you're going to cover everything in almonds like that. And a nice neat trick, I put some parchment in the bottoms and I can remove it so I don't have to clean up the sides too much. So see, I put it in the cake round and it's literally right at the top. Now you can decorate, and this cake was actually very, very good. So again, yeah, I would add more cream filling just because the cake itself, it kind of leans on the drier side just inherently, but very fluffy. You can see how it's wiggling. Just needs more cream. I love whipped cream. Hope you guys make it. Let me know how it came out.